Will you be emailing these out to us afterwards?
You will be able to go into the website and find them.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So just with that said, let me introduce, the meeting. Hi, everybody out there. This is the April 2nd Thursday meeting for Inventors Roundtable Virtual West. And thanks for joining us tonight. So I do like to kind of go around and have everybody introduce themselves and say kind of where you are in the process. And if you were at the last meeting, the key question is, what have you done since we saw you last? So Allison, go ahead. Let's start with you. Even though we got to have a chance to talk for about 10 minutes before anybody else joined us. Introduce yourself, tell everybody where you are and kind of what you're working on.
I'm Allison from Sacramento, California. I started as an inventor, and I kind of did a switcheroo of kind of career, which kind of still sticking into like the business part of it, but went more into the modeling industry. So been working on some videos and channels on YouTube to get out my name more publicly. Yeah, that's about it.
Excellent. Peter, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Okay, I'm Peter Norrington. I am retired, was a patent agent, but I am not a provider. Don't want to be a provider. Turned out when I got to become a patent agent, everybody looked at my background and said, well, you'd be awful good at patent infringement and as an expert witness, which pays extremely well. So I did that for a long time, finally got successfully retired after 4 tries. But hopefully I can at least answer some questions about the world of patents and what goes on there. I have 4 patents of my own. Well, not really my own. They belong to companies I work for. Yeah, I'm still trying to invent things. You never know.
You never know, for sure. All right, Lon. I do know to call you Lon now instead of Wheezy Grandma.
Hello, everybody. I am Lon Cunningham. First time for this. I am a quadriplegic bilateral amputee. I'm only 27 years old, but time has not been my friend. I don't complain because I don't have a leg to stand on, and I really just want to soak up as much knowledge about the inventing process and the things ahead of me. I'm just starting to look for a licensing agreement and nail down everything else. The patent process, it's in the process of being written. I hope they hurry up and get back to me. But that's about where I'm at. I have 3 kids and a loving wife and a dog that's driving me insane.
I do understand that. Shelley? Oh, you're muted, honey.
I was just looking for that. Okay. Hi, I'm Shelley Wetzel, and I'm in the Denver area. I haven't been on in a few months for different reasons, but I'm an inventor. I have 1 patent, another pending, and I'm in the process right now. It's being, I guess, the beginning process of being manufactured in Vietnam. I'm working with a marketing agency on initial marketing for launch, and hopefully June is the time frame. And trying to juggle a bunch of financial balls because I was laid off at the end of October for a job and I haven't found one since. So that's where I am now.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Maggie? Maggie, are you there? All right. Anthony? You're muted, but do you go by Tony?
Tony, yeah.
Tony, introduce yourself.
I'm Tony Dobai, calling from Draper, Utah. And Rita, I don't know if you remember me, but I've been to a couple of your sessions live. I used to live in Denver, so. Yeah,
I recognize the name.
Right. So anyway, I'm working on what I call the Jester. It's a remote control for your smartphone when it's at those times when it's frustrating or disruptive to interact with a touchscreen. So like when you're wearing protective gear, if you're outside, running or, doing sports or working out, and those sorts of circumstances, also in industrial settings where you're wearing gloves and so forth and need to communicate with people. It's a patented technology for interacting with your smartphone that doesn't include looking at or touching anything. So in any case, so I'm at the point now where we have an MVP, and we're starting the redesign process to correct all the errors in the MVP and get to a saleable design. And so now I know nothing about sales and marketing. I'm an engineer. And so I'm trying to be a sponge and get all the information I need to make that successful. So.
Okay. Excellent. Well, all of you, it's good to see you, and thanks for joining us tonight. You've all kind of led into, some of the conversation that I've had with some of the other inventors recently, and certainly since we went to the ASD Market Week, and that is the challenge of finding good service providers. One bad one can just break you financially and spiritually, as far as next steps, because inventing is expensive and it's hard, and it's not like you've got a long learning curve. You've got one product you're trying to get into the marketplace, and if somebody takes advantage of you, it can make things impossible to recover from. So what we do is we try to give you vetted service providers. We try to answer questions on what to look out for. One of the things that I'll get an inventor that tells me how much they spent on their patent, and it's like, oh my God, find another attorney. They're just driving a nicer car. We see averages a lot. The attorneys that we have vetted over the years, because they work more closely with us, I can kind of reach out and poke them with a stick if they're charging too many hours and find out why. So I get to be your advocate on that. Same thing with manufacturing and prototyping. It's like, wait a minute. Let's back up this, cart here and see, why is it going to cost so much? Sometimes it does, but at least I can ask the questions. And, we had a lot of complaints with some of the early stage prototype guys. And then we've had some of you guys, when you've been on the meetings here, you'll talk about a couple of the other ones, like they walk on water. So it's always fun to, know that we're giving out information on the good ones, and that we're kind of, saying, no, don't use that guy, because their reputation is not very, very good. We've had two different manufacturers, middle stage, where they're not at the very beginning, but they're getting things teed up for manufacturing, that just charged outrageous amounts of money and did not provide in a timely manner the prototypes, and then charged the inventor tens of thousands of dollars, and told them that if they did not pay their invoice, that they were going to file competitive intellectual property. Well, that's just disgusting. So when we look at, how to avoid that, how to try to manage that in anticipation of it, we use a work for hire agreement. I give them away free. All right, so that you can fill in your blank with what you need them to say, but it's got parameters in there, and it specifically says all intellectual property belongs to you, the inventor. Here's the time frames. Here's the penalty if you miss the time frame. And that's really important, is, setting the stage for those guys. Marketing stuff, you spend a lot of money getting all teed up and developing your product. Marketing can actually be more expensive than anything else and everything else combined. So I'm sorry, Tony, that is, where everybody gets to, but it's tough. You've got to have a good story to tell. I talked to a gentleman today, and spent 20 minutes on the phone and still didn't understand what he had. I said, the first thing you need to do is stand in front of the mirror and practice your speech. You need a 30-second elevator speech, so when you're telling somebody over the phone what you're doing, they can understand it. He didn't understand what I was talking about. So his first issue is being able to enunciate in 3 or 4 sentences what he does, and he can't. So, those are just, when people talk about, the 30-second elevator pitch, when I'm working as a licensing agent for someone, they ask me 4 questions. What problem did you solve? How did you solve it? Did you use a registered patent attorney? And can we make it at a price the consumer is willing to pay for it? 15 seconds. First conversation is about 15 seconds. That opens the door to the next conversation, which is about 15 minutes, and they will ask the questions they want the answers to. In different industries, they're all over the place, but that's kind of their lead. There's certain information that a licensee is never entitled to until they sign an agreement. And I help the inventors understand what those parameters are. So, I know, Lon, what you're working on, very cool idea. And, being able to get you filed and get a licensing agreement to you so that we can actually get out there and show it, very cool. But being able to tell that story short and sweet is really important. Okay. If you've got any questions, please let me know. I hate it when I talk to myself. Shelley.
Can you repeat the 4 items? I'm trying to jot them down really quick. I know I can go back and watch this, but can you repeat those 4 items?
Sure. What problem did you solve? How did you solve it? Did you use a registered patent attorney? And do you know it can be made at the price the consumer is willing to pay? When we do the radio show next week, we're going to be talking about the differences, the manufacturing in the US versus manufacturing somewhere else overseas. The consumer is God when it comes to where you end up. And it doesn't matter how badly you want to be made in America. If you can't come in at a price the consumer is willing to pay, you will not be made in America. That is just the reality. And while, most Americans would like to buy made in America, when they look at it, they're going to compare pricing. And if your price is a lot higher, they're going to buy the one sitting next to it. That's just the way it is. And we really look, and there's different things that will determine where something's made. We had one lady years ago, she had a new flagpole. She wanted it made in America. We got pricing on made in America. It was going to be $175 just for the poles. Well, did any of you spend $175 on a flagpole? No, maybe 20. So we went to China, got pricing there, $6.75. That was packaged and delivered on a pallet. And they were shipping the aluminum from the US to China to make it. She had no control over that. It's just the way it is. As we see more manufacturing coming back to the US, we do have more options. Sometimes it's a matter of testing the product. We had another gentleman in the Denver area was manufacturing overseas because he thought it was cheaper, and it was cheaper, but the failure rate was very high. So when he took out then the ones that had failed, that he had paid for, and he couldn't send them back, it was actually a break even for him to start manufacturing then the computer parts in the US. So you look at different options like that, and then you make your decision. But when I get an inventor that says, I'm going to make it in the US, that's not always a choice you get to make. Right. Sometimes it's just stubborn and naive. So, and when you license it, the licensee is going to make it. They're going to determine made in the US, made in China, made in Vietnam, wherever.
Let me just, from my experiences, back up what Rita just said. Those 4 items are right on. And if you go through these incubators and accelerators, that's I would say that that's a good idea if you can do it. But they're all going to have their own prescription for what a pitch deck looks like. But they all, no matter what they say, they all have those 4 elements. And what you need to do is convey those 4 elements, and they all have a different way of doing it. And I don't know if there's any magic bullet there. You just got to do it concisely and accurately and succinctly. And I just want to reiterate that, in my experience, when I started out and thought venture capital was the way to go, institutional investors, but forget about that.
I was just going to give you the hex sign on that. Yes.
Yeah. What we're doing is we are the real entrepreneurs, in my view, in the United States. I mean, these institutional investors, they're backing up projects that are already set up, that have a pedigree, right? So I
Mhm.
lived in the Bay Area for a couple of years and immersed myself in that environment. And, you know, if you're not from, if you don't have a team at Berkeley or Stanford or something like that, they're just not interested in even talking to you. And so that was frustrating and kind of an epiphany. So institutional investors are not going to be interested in what you're doing. So don't waste your time talking to them.
When you go to a program that is for startups,
Right.
okay, that is synonymous with going broke and they still expect you to pay them back.
Right.
You know, some strangers giving you money. There's a lady, she had a great product. And, you know, she came to a few of the meetings, but she got then hooked up with an investor who expected her to make her family and friends match dollar for dollar whatever he was putting into it.
Right.
It was an absolute recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And I felt really, really bad for her. But a lot of times, you know, and when you've got an investor that gives you money, they don't want you to license it. You know, this investor was telling her, oh, you know, you're going to have $25 million in sale your first year. That was 9 months ago. She hasn't had any dollars in sale yet. So, you know, it's tough out there. She could have licensed the product and let somebody else make it, sell it, and send her a check. And you know, marketing and running a business is not her strong suit. And for most inventors, it's not. You know, some are better at business, but then it doesn't mean they're necessarily good at marketing. So you've really got to look at then, you know, where are you? What is your skill set? What do you bring to the party? You know, like Tony said, I'm an engineer. I'm not a marketing person. That's a valuable piece of information because, you know, you can find people to do, to help you with your marketing. There are good people, just like there are bad people. There are scoundrels that just want to send you an invoice. And then there are some that are really passionate about what they do. You obviously you want the passionate one. You want to stay away from the scoundrels. We've had 3 different folks helping us with our marketing. The first 2 were scoundrels, and the last one was priceless. And he's the one that still does all of our, you know, does all of our websites, all of our social media, posts everything from the radio, does the videos at the trade shows. He is amazing. But the other two groups, one was out of Boston and one was out of Denver, and they were terrible. And they charged me a ton of money. They charged me twice as much as he's charging me, and he's worth every penny.
Yeah, and those comments I would say would apply to all the vendors, right? You know, service providers of all kinds.
Yeah.
And
You know, an expensive attorney just doesn't necessarily mean they do a better job. You know, they're just charging more and drive a nicer car. But it's the same way on production, manufacturing, prototyping,
all of it, yeah.
all of it.
And I would say that in my experience, trusted personal referrals is really the best way to get that information, because you can't tell, you know, until you get into it with these providers what they're going to do. And you know, if you have a personal referral that you trust,
Yeah,
that's a good sign.
and it makes such a difference. I mean, you know, you're talking to somebody and you say, well, you know, I want a couple of referrals. Are they going to give you their bad ones? Well,
Right.
no, they're not. They're going to give you the ones that, you know, they've paid to give the best ones. Lon?
I was just wondering 2 things, actually. One, how long from start to finish should a person expect for, say, a licensing agreement for the process to play out?
It depends on a variety of things, and I don't mean to sound like an attorney. I'm married to one of those, and so, you know, but the more you are able to focus on it and do it faster. Now you've got a functioning prototype.
Yes.
So that's a huge one for, you know, a lot of times people will file their intellectual property and then they start working on their prototype. Well, you've already got your prototype. So that's a big nut. Now you're just waiting for the attorney to get you filed so you're patent pending and get out the door. It depends then on the potential sales. Okay, so let me give you an example. Everybody knows that a flashlight is a light coming out at the end of the stick. And some of you have heard this story before. The guy that invented the one that wraps around the pole, that was a game changer. Still a light coming out of the end of the stick. All right. But now you can wrap it around a stick instead of sticking it in your mouth so that you can use both your hands. Makes a difference. The young woman that invented the stoma powder, early onset Parkinson's, 25 years old, had a feeding tube for 10 years.
Oh my
Went
God.
to college, became a chemist. That feeding tube caused a horrible rash for 10 years. And she became a chemist so she could solve her own problem. We licensed that to the company that makes the stomas. And they said, we know it's a problem. It's been a problem for decades, and we could never figure out how to solve it. They launched it in March.
Wow.
And so, you know, they were thrilled. They were just absolutely thrilled. So we got a really good royalty rate from them. They're doing all the manufacturing. She was using OTC parts powders to make it. So everything had already been, FDA approved. So, going back to answer your question, it really depends on what it is and, the number of potential buyers and then the price points. So when you look at your product and you say, okay, this is a game changer in this, it doesn't mean that there's nothing else like it. It's potential buyers that are the critical factor. So who's going to use it? What is our market potential? From early stage where you've got prototype and patent pending, it can be 18 months. If you've been able to make some and sell some, and I don't care if you're selling them for $1 to your neighbor across the street, but you've been able to make some and sell some, you get some testimonials even, it helps to speed that process up.
And Rita, correct me if I'm wrong, but licensing agreements are extraordinarily hard to get. And the reason that is largely, I think, is because finding the right people to talk to is extraordinarily hard to do. And I would say one of the key factors there is traction. You have to demonstrate to the companies that you're going to get this license agreement that this is a product that is popular and will sell. Or, have an inside track. If it's a company you used to work for, people inside, that really helps.
It does. And all of those things, certainly do swing. That's what we do. So we do have a list of contacts. Some of it is who we reach out to. We had two guys, contractors. They invented this new bracket that is very unique. It fits down on a roof. So it holds the tarp down. And instead of drilling holes or putting sandbags up there, it just connects to what's there. Well, they got rained out of the show. They couldn't get from Florida to Las Vegas in the time frame they wanted. And everybody felt bad for him. But one of the guys there said, I know somebody they need to talk to. Also happened to be in Florida. So I called him. He was a great guy. He goes, this is the company we would buy from. And he gave me their phone number today. So sometimes it's just, getting it out there, the due diligence of, you just keep working it. That's what we do when we're working to license the product. So we look at the game changers. One that we're having some issues with, the guy that's, kind of invented a new product for living off the grid. That's not our sweet spot. I told him that. We try to be straight, but then we've got, this lead-free fishing weight that we're working on that lawn fits right into that category that, you're in. So those are the things that, we say, all right, we've already got a product in this. We're already reaching out to folks. Let's go ahead and take on this new one and reach out as well. So it's hard. I don't charge anything up front to help with licensing. I never have, because I can't make a guarantee anybody else can. And that was one of the things that we learned a long time ago, is that it's hard. We've got a lot of contacts now and people we can call. One of the guys that went with us to the trade show is now in the process of licensing one of the other products that we had at the trade show. So it's always really interesting when we start seeing things get out there and start working on getting deals made. But we work with the inventor as opposed to working. We don't put things in a silo. Everybody, there's an overlap. Lon, you wanted to ask another question?
Oh, I was just wondering. So then, in my case, I invented this to solve a problem for myself, and as it turns out, there are more people than just me that would need it. But if I was pitching this to somebody, or I don't know exactly what the legal terminology is for licensing agreement, would it be safe to assume that I would need to be the person demonstrating it, explaining it and stuff, or how do you do that? Do you have videotape it and say, here's the product?
We do a lot of the videos. All right. So if you can, get somebody to videotape you using it, that's terrific. And you're right. There's a lot of people out there. My brother-in-law has been in a wheelchair for 10 years. He has not been able to walk. He's got MS really bad, and he loves to fish.
Right.
And he has not fished in Tennessee one time because he doesn't have the ability. So
This is what I have for use. That is all my hand moves, and I can fish.
yes. And so there are a lot of fishing is very relaxing. And so, the problem that you've solved certainly gives, a lot of the people out there who would love to be able to get out on, a dock and do some fishing, that opportunity. So, we look at things like that and being able to get it out there. But doing a video is a big deal. Virtual has allowed us not to have to travel. We did these Inventor Roundtable meetings downtown Denver forever. Until, there was a pandemic and everything went virtual and I moved to Tennessee. So now we do, virtual East and virtual West, and we have people all over the country, joining us for a meeting. It makes a difference. So virtual and videos and conference calling has allowed us to almost eliminate travel for doing licensing. It's just not a requirement. Now, a lot of times they will want you to send a prototype. So if you can have two, one that you keep and one that you have to, send around, that's always a good idea. But certainly for now, a video is going to go a long way. And then, we answer the 4 questions for them. We shoot them a video link. They watch it. And then we have a conversation. The next step is to do a letter of intent, which is about 6 bullet points that they agree to in an email.
Mhm.
And that's where we go. Peter?
Yeah, just a quick point. You had said a little bit earlier, I think, in talking to Lon about providing samples and maybe selling a few prototypes and that sort of thing. You got to be careful, because if you sell the product, you only got a year to get the patent filed.
Right.
Well, he's on track with getting his utility filed now.
Well, why don't you have him do a provisional now, and then you can call it patent pending, which is actually your ideal situation, because any potential competitor doesn't know exactly what's in the patent. So they have to be twice as careful about infringement than if they see an issued patent and they can work around it.
There's other circumstances involved. So he's got an attorney that's willing to do it, the utility, and get it filed. And so, at this point, when a licensee wants to look at it, they want to be able to see the utility patent, not a provisional.
Yeah, what is the difference between a utility patent and provisional patent?
The provisional filing is kind of like the front half. It's a timestamp. You may not have the product completely developed yet, but you want that time, and you want to make sure that somebody can't get in before you. So you file the provisional, and Peter's right. You've got a full year. It's not disclosed as long as you haven't gone to a show, put up a website. It's amazing how many times people do put up a website. That kind of takes that year of being in the closet away from you. But that's okay. Everybody looks at their own time frame and where they are. And when somebody files a provisional and then we get interest in doing a licensing, then they've got to hurry up and pull the trigger and file the utility. Lon is at the point where he's ready to file the utility and go after licensing sooner rather than later. So those are some of the things that that we look at. But then the utility is the back half. A non-provisional, you might hear it as being provisional and non-provisional. The non-provisional is the same thing as utility. It's how it's used, how it functions, what it does. You cannot file a provisional for a design patent, or you're not supposed to. You can, but there's some of that's you're not supposed to, but if you do, and then your attorney says, no, you're really not going to be able to file a utility, you can turn it into then the design. The design is just the way it looks. All right, it's basically 2-dimensional, top, bottom, left, right, front, back. So there's times when I'll get somebody that files a design patent, but they might file 2 or 3 of them so that they get more points of view. Okay. Shelley?
Follow up on patents, the Rita and Peter. So my first patent I filed in, I can't even remember anymore, but it took 2.5 years to come through without any edits, which I understand is rare.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I was very, very lucky. And the second patent, as I said earlier, was filed in summer 2020. Sort of two questions from that. I cannot, from my understanding, I cannot check the status of that patent, only the attorney who filed it. And number two, okay, we're now at almost 3 years or 4 years, so summer 2020. I realize pandemic has screwed up a lot of stuff.
Not that much.
Okay,
Not that much.
I
You
mean,
should be able to call the Inventor hotline, and as the listed inventor, they can give you status.
and the Inventor hotline is through
US,
U.S. Patent Office.
yeah, there's a USPTO Inventor hotline.
okay.
So if
All
you,
right.
go to the website and they'll say for inventors, and there'll be a hotline that you can Google. And normally what they will do is they will give you then, as the listed inventor,
Uh-huh.
all right, an update. They won't give you many details, but they will give you an update.
Okay.
You
That's
should
what-
have had a notice of publication at 18 months.
I haven't gotten anything. At least my attorney hasn't given me anything. It's been a while.
Yeah, you should have had, and they, yes, it messed things up, but not 4 years worth. We're pretty much, everything is pretty much on track.
All right. I'll
Well,
give
one of the things that can happen is they have a time frame, a total of 20 years, of which 17 years is supposed to be while the patent's in force. So they have 3 years to get your patent done. If they mess up that time frame, they extend the term of your patent by the
Yeah.
same amount of time.
okay.
So 20 days or so many months or whatever. So you're covered kind of anyway. But yeah, maybe your patent attorney is not giving you any updates, and they should be.
Okay.
There should be some dialogue going on back and forth by now.
Yeah, there should have been. You should have had an office action by now.
Okay.
And certainly some kind of notice. So if you don't get anywhere with the attorney giving you an answer, get the update. Call the helpline, see if you can get the update. I've had inventors call, and when they're the named inventor, they will at least tell them where the status is.
Okay.
You've gone to the USPTO website?
No, I have not. Not recently. No.
Okay, you can go and do a search for your patent. All
Okay.
right. You can pull it up, and then you can put in, it asks for criteria. You can put in your last name and your state.
Okay.
If you've got a copy of what he filed, you can put in your last name and the name that went on the patent, or his name,
Okay.
Right. But you can see then if it comes up, and a lot of times it'll give you the status
Okay.
right then and there. But then you can always call the hotline and ask. They will at least say, well, you've had a publication date, there's a pending office action, something like that. If you don't get anywhere with it, and you're not getting a response from him, give me a call.
All right. Thanks, Rita.
Okay.
Thank
Lon?
So, okay, so just to clarify, the time frame that they give you, they say that you have, for your patent, you have, I think it's like 3.5 years, and then you have to pay a fee, and then 7.5 years you have to pay a fee, and 11.5 years. Does the 3.5 years start from the time you submit your patent or submit the paperwork for the patent, or when they kick it back and say you now have this patent, and once it's locked in, that's when your 3.5 years start, or does it start right up front?
Back in the day, before they made the changes, it was more complicated, and then they made the change in it. It was 20 years from the date of filing. So when your attorney puts in that electronic paperwork and hits the button send, within about 30 seconds, you are patent pending, and your 20 years has started ticking. All right. So within that time frame now, you've got 1.5 years until they send you a notice that you've been published. Then you've got about 6 months till your office action. Average time frame is about 3 years to get an issue. It depends on how many office actions you have. All right.
Jeez.
You do not wait, Lon. All right. From the time you are patent pending with your utility, we go after a licensing deal. Every licensing deal that I have done says, if this patent does not issue, this agreement is null and void, because they don't want you to wait. It gives somebody else too much time to fill the hole in the market. All right.
Gotcha.
If I get somebody that says, well, my patent is issued, now I want a license. And I start talking, they say, what were you doing for 3 years? So they don't want you to wait. It's wasted time.
And I have
But
one of the,
as far as the fees go, Lon, it's 3 years after your patent issues is the first fee, and so forth and so on. Now, one of the problems you can run into, depending on the impact of your invention, is if you patent around the world, the fees in some of these countries are enormous. I mean, you can be paying a lot of money annually in fees if you're patenting in Europe and so forth and so on. So that's another concern sometimes if you really get a
I
blockbuster.
want to think small right now because that's kind of like blowing my mind.
Well, and what I normally look at as a licensing agent is with some products, I recommend filing the PCT, which is kind of the provisional version of the international filing. It gives you 30 months to decide what other country. Well, if you happen to license it then to a company that's going to manufacture in China, then you want to file in China. If you have filed in China, they will enforce it in China. But you might find that Canada is going to be a huge market and you want to be protected there. We've got a lady that did a product that was a jewelry product. And the big company that she wants to license it to is in Canada, in Montreal. And so she filed there. And lo and behold, they were at ASD Market Week, and that's the company that's making her the offer. So, but she had filed the PCTs, so she had some international, protection on that. And then she gets to decide now, if they make it in China, she may still file in China, but she's definitely already filed in Canada. The lady that did the stoma powder, she filed, the PCT so she could pick and choose the company that's going to make it. They're going to be manufacturing at least part of it in most likely China. So that's kind of, it gives you then 30 months to decide, where else you might want to file it. The most important thing you do as an inventor, if you were looking at licensing, is control the intellectual property. You never assign that to the licensee because then their name's on it and not yours. And if they stop paying royalties, it's really hard to go after them.
Gotcha.
But if they're in breach of contract by not paying the royalties on time, we can actually pull the contract and move on.
I also wanted to ask you before I forget, is it possible that I can pass your contact on to the instructor I had for the business class that got all this started?
Sure.
Okay. Because he's got an inventor in his class right now.
Sure, not a problem. I mean, my phone number is everywhere. They're going to etch it on the side of my casket. I'm taking it with me.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I just want to make one quick comment just for everybody's edification, and that is the simpler the product the simpler your product is, the better. And I say that because my product is very complex, and so it's costly to produce, it's costly to develop. And that's not what you want. You want something simple, clever, and has a broad appeal. So if you can, if you're just interested in being an entrepreneur and that's what you're starting with, start with that, with those principles. Anyway, Rita, one of the reasons I came on today is because I met somebody through my network that had a tremendous amount of success using product placements on television and radio. So apparently, and I had never heard of this before, Good Morning America has a deals site. And it cost her something like, it was a ridiculously low amount of money. It was like $500 a month or something like that to have this product placed on their deals site. And it actually mentioned on television.
I don't know if you know, Tony, but some of you know, we do radio. Mm-hmm. I host Invent America Radio. We're on 100 channels across the country every Saturday. Talk radio, old-fashioned talk radio. We've got about 1 million listeners. All right. And our inventors that we get on free.
Wow.
All right. And then we do have some of them that do become sponsors, and their product streams, we get them on video. We are pushing it out there everywhere. So we do have a few inventors that, and the show was originally called Home Talk USA with Michael King. And I met him at the National Hardware Show 15 years ago. He has got the longest running do-it-yourself talk show in history at this point. And we just celebrated that anniversary in January of last year. But he asked me then over a year ago if I would do his second hour, take over his second hour as Invent America. And I did. And it has been a ton of fun. But, you know, we put 2 inventors on and an industry expert every week. It is amazing how freaking fast Monday rolls around now when I've got to do a radio show. But, you know, we get the inventors on, you talk about your products, we post your websites out there. And then, like I said, we do get a few of them that have, you know, product and inventory they want to sell, and they become an advertiser. They become a sponsor for the show, and we stream them everywhere. And for some of them, I mean, Michael has had some of the same inventors, service providers on the Home Talk USA for 10 years.
Yeah, that blew me away because I was approached by a program development company that makes this show called Innovations or something like that, hosted by Ted Danson.
Mm-hmm.
And
There's a lot of them out there, yeah.
Yeah, and they were going to charge me $30,000 to get on that show.
Yeah, we're free, and unless you become a sponsor, and then it's $500 a month.
And so, you know, I took that and I said, well, TV's out of the question. So,
yeah, no kidding.
but this gal, I mean, they mentioned her product and showed it on television, and you know, the next day she had, you know,
if you
thousands
have
of orders.
Yeah, if you have inventory to sell, TikTok Shop is the new one that's doing very well.
Okay.
And we've had people on to talk about that. You know, certainly old-fashioned radio. It's amazing how people want to support American inventors by going and buying their products. Going to a trade show. I mean, shoot, just that trade show we were at with ASD, we had more. The people that were selling inventory there had to go and print more order forms because they ran out.
Yeah.
And it was you know, it was not consumer based. It was buyers, people buying inventory to resell it. And it costs less for them to go to the professional trade show than it does for any other type of advertising.
Interesting. Well, if you have any advice for my product, what outlets might be amenable to my product, let me know, because I'd like to, you know, explore that possibility.
There is a professional trade show for every industry. Now we pick ASD
Sure.
Market because it covers the biggest majority. So if you've got a product that's going to be at a, you know, Target, Walmart, Bed Bath & Beyond, Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace, any of those box stores, they're going to be, you know, buyers there. But I've been to the National Asphalt Show. You know, there's something for everything.
Well, I've been to some of those shows. So we presented at Ski Dazzle in LA this year, and we presented at what was the other one? Denver Startup Week. We presented there.
Those are not the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, so that's not a trade show, but Outdoor Retailer is a trade show.
Yes.
So, but we didn't have a booth there, but we did walk around, walk the floor.
Okay, you need to pay to play, so you need to get a booth.
Okay.
So you can demo your product. That's what allows you to sell openly. You don't want to get escorted out. But you know, you pay to play, so you get, you know, your 10 by 10. That's all. We had 30 products in our booth. We had 800 square feet right by the concession stand. And so, you know, placement is a big deal. Do not go to a show that has an inventor section.
Oh, really?
It's a feeding frenzy, and you are the main course. All right.
Explain that. What do you mean?
Well, everybody's there to sell you services.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
All right. You know, we were the only innovation area with new products at ASD. And people came there to buy, and that's what you want. But the ones that do like the Inventor Spotlight and that kind of thing, you get inundated with, you know, manufacturing and marketing. And the one big thing that we found is as a detriment is everybody came by to sell us Amazon services. Well, we found out later that there had been a class. There were 250 people in the class, and we were the first booth they all stopped at when they walked out. So yes, we did see a lot of them. And then after we got through the first day, there weren't as many of them, but we certainly did notice. When we've gone to like the National Hardware Show in the past, we were constantly bombarded by, you know, groups trying to sell us services, and we weren't even in the Inventor Spotlight section. But it is notorious for selling, you know, trying to sell services to you. And that's what you're trying to sell your product,
Right.
not buy services from somebody else.
Did you have any experience
There's
with?
a variety of, obviously electronic shows, some of which focus specifically on cell phone, smartphone technology,
Right.
and those kind of issues.
Right.
You're probably aware of them if you're down in Silicon Valley. Those are the places you might want to go.
Yeah.
Well, there's the Consumer Electronics Show, the CES in Las Vegas every year.
Well, I go to that every year, but they do, I haven't done a booth there yet, but I'm thinking about this year, and they do have an innovation, section where it's a competitive thing where you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a regular booth on the main floor.
Okay.
All right. Stay out of the innovation section.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. Now, if there's a spot where you got a 10 by 10, all right,
Mhm.
so you're there as an exhibitor, a straight exhibitor, as opposed to, a new invention,
Yeah.
because that is just, they treat you like you're in high school. It makes all of our, the folks that have done it, people come to me crying because it's like, why did they do this? Anyway, so they treat you like a grown-up if you're in the regular exhibitor space. Now, if they've got a new, a new section where everybody's able to display for an extra fee, there's where you want to be, but it doesn't say Inventor on it.
Got you. Okay.
All right, stay out of the Inventor sections.
Gotcha.
It's like they tattoo it on your forehead.
Right.
So, and I've been doing trade shows for 15 years. I know what they do.
Yeah.
Only what you do is you label your product as the new version rather than the original. This is the revised, upgraded version of it. So you're not a newbie anymore.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
It's you can waste a lot of money not knowing, and then get caught up in those, in those areas, and it's like, oh, well, I'm an inventor. No, you are a product developer. You are a wholesaler. And that's when we went to ASD, it made me laugh because everybody said, well, they say this is for wholesalers. And I go, and that is what you are. You are wholesaling your product. You are a product developer. And it's like, oh, I didn't even think of myself as being a product developer. So that said, we have had some new information come to us from a large company that there is a tax credit for research and development.
Yes.
All right, y'all qualify. As soon as you start selling, you no longer qualify. All right, so as long as you can say you are in product development and show some of your expenses, you qualify. And we're going to have them on the radio in a couple of weeks. But it's, very, very interesting piece of information we're trying to get out to everyone, because most inventors, and this gentleman I talked to, he says, most inventors don't know. You don't, so many of them say, well, I'm not a scientific inventor. I'm just, got this little gadget. And I specifically asked him about that. He said, it doesn't matter if you've got a new dog leash. If you put money into time and development and research on the new product, those expenses qualify for the tax credit.
But I thought that tax credit only had to do with salaries. So you had only offset salaries.
It's when you've paid a service provider.
Okay. Okay. I'll have to revisit that.
Yep. Because he's promised me, he said, a lot of your inventors are going to qualify. They don't even know they qualify.
Well, the other thing is the tax credit is only good if you're actually earning revenue, right?
It's before you've started selling.
Really?
Yep, that's what he told me. So I am still learning about it. They approached me at ASD out there, and then we've been in conversations. So today he was going to a meeting and pushing it up the ladder to become sponsors for the radio show.
Well, I'll have to look at that again because
so we'll get him on. We'll get him on one of the meetings so he can answer questions for you.
That would be great.
Yep. And I'll post it out, because it surprised me too. Because I said, hey, somebody's doing a new, sink drain for a garbage disposal. Doesn't really put him into the science category and the research and development. And he goes, it doesn't matter. And he goes, and by the time they've started selling, they don't qualify anymore. So there's a sweet spot in there.
I'll have to revisit that.
But I'll post it when I can get Cody on one of our meetings, and you guys can all come on and ask him questions.
Just one other question I had, if I may, and that is any suggestions about how to find a business development partner?
Uh,
So I'm focusing on the technical side, and I need somebody to help me with the sales and marketing effort.
okay. To me, that's different than, doing a business plan.
Right.
The sales and marketing, all
Mhm.
right, the gentleman I use is Michael Green.
Michael Green.
Shoot me over an email. I'll send you back his contact information
Okay,
tomorrow.
great.
He's the one that does everything for the radio show. He does everything for Inventor. He used to work for Reed Expo, which is the organizing company that does National Hardware Show.
Okay.
And so when somebody told me, he goes, we keep Googling National Hardware Show and all we get is Inventor Lady. I knew he knew what he was doing.
Okay,
So
we'll
he
do that.
does all the websites. He's very reasonably priced. He's easy to get a hold of.
I'll do that.
He's been a really good guy. So shoot me out an email and I'll send it back to you.
Great, thanks.
Anybody else have questions? Shelley?
Okay, while I was still listening to you, I went on the patent office website, my original patent, but I'm not finding anything that supposedly was filed in 2020 or 2021 with my last name or attorney's name. Since it's a second patent based on the original patent, would it still be the same patent number?
No, they
Okay.
did a PCT, or the CIP. Was it a CIP that he did?
I'm sorry, say that again. I have the patent in front of me.
Okay, so if he filed a CIP, which is called a continuation in part,
Okay,
all right, it should have a different number.
I'm not finding anything. I might call you later or email you later because I'm hoping he did not take it down. And not find
Yeah.
The patent office will issue you a receipt when they get the original application,
Right.
and then that goes into that you should see as you're looking on that website. The day they sent you a receipt to say, "Yep, we got your application."
all
That's when the clock starts.
I'm seeing is the original patent.
So is the second patent related to the first one?
Yes.
So it's an improvement or an addition to the first one?
Yes.
It would qualify then as the CIP.
Okay.
It should have its own receipt and its own number. It's considered a second patent.
All right. Well, I'm going to email the attorney and ask him for the CIP. I mean,
You should be able to say, I want the filing receipt.
filing receipt. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I just don't know what's going on now.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. He should be able to give you a filing receipt so that it's got a number and then you can track that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anybody else have a question for us tonight? So, all right, guys, if there's no other questions or anything to take care of, I will post, different topics. And when we can get some of our sponsors from the radio show on, like Cody from the Research and Development Tax Credit, that's a big one. I've got other organizations across the country say, we need to talk to him. Hurry up and get his contact out there. So we're working on it, but I will let everybody know. Maggie, hopefully we'll get to see you the next time, and actually you can introduce yourself and talk. It was nice to see all of you. Heidi, thanks for joining us. And if you guys have any questions at all, give me a phone call, shoot me an email. Happy to answer them for you if you need a service provider. If you get patent pending and you want to be on the radio, I need you.
One other thing, Rita gave me an excellent recommendation for a manufacturing firm, ITI Manufacturing, who is the one I'm using now to produce or manufacture overseas. And then they gave me a really good recommendation for a fulfillment company.
Good. We like it when they turn out well. Holy cow. So, all right, guys, you take it easy. Take care, and
Miss Rita.
let me know if you need anything. All right.
Thank
Miss
you.
Rita.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Rita.
Bye-bye, guys.
Here.
Rita.
Yeah.
Is it I sent you back an email asking what time would work to connect with you, because you wanted to do a face-to-face.
Yes, I want to see your prototype. Is there any, can you do Saturday morning, Lon?
Sure. What time?
All right. Are you Eastern time?
No, Central.
You're Central time. All right.
Below you.
I'm in Tennessee.
I'm in Texas.
Okay. All right. So let's look at, are you okay doing, if we do 9 o'clock your time?
Yeah, I can do 9 o'clock.
All right.
Wait.
That's
I better check with my wife. I don't think there's anything on the
right.
schedule for Saturday, but I can email you tomorrow and let you know.
yeah, just let me know. We can adjust that. It's not going to be raining on Saturday, so we'll probably be doing some chores outside. I just want to see your prototype.
That's fine. I've got it right here. If you got a second, I can show it to you.
Yeah, show it to me.
How do I turn this thing around so you can see it?
I
Is
have
it-
no idea.
Oh yeah, here we go. Okay. Hank, I'm gonna send you to the dog pound if you're not careful. Okay. That's not it. Go in here. He's hearing the neighbor's dog barking, and it's driving him insane.
Well, mine
He's
too
not-
are laying here on the floor.
Can you see this?
No.
This is what it looks like with the reel off. And what happens is the reel goes in here. There's a little cap that goes in from the other side. And there's a little cap thing that I made. It goes on this screw, goes up against the base. And the line comes out, goes through this guide, through this, I call it a line break, through this eyelet, and then up through the pole.
Okay, I don't see anything. It's a black screen.
I don't know why that does that. Every time I share my screen with people, all they get is a black screen.
I don't know either. One of the things that you could do is just have your wife take some video with your phone and tell me what all the parts are and what you're doing.
Okay.
And then just you can, if you can't send it to me, I'll give you a link to a drive.
Okay.
Just upload it that way.
It's got to be in my settings, because every time I share my screen with my son with Facebook, all he sees is a black screen. So,
All right.
and he's in IT, so I'll get him on that job.
All right.
Thank
all
you,
right.
man. This was really wonderful.
Terrific. It was really nice to see you. Take care now.
Saturday at 9. Take care.
Saturday at 9. That'll be terrific. And like I said, if you just have her do some video, you can always send it to me and then I can see it and then I can talk to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Bye-bye.